I want you to imagine, just for a second, that you are holding the actual blueprint for immortality.
Like a literal map.
Yeah, but I don't mean a map to some, hidden fountain of youth in a jungle somewhere. And I definitely don't mean a complex, multi-billion-dollar biotechnology formula cooked up in a Silicon Valley lab.
Right. We're talking about something else entirely.
Exactly. I mean, a blueprint encoded entirely within a single piece of art. And, a few lines of ancient poetry.
Sounds like something out of a fantasy novel, honestly.
It really does. So let's unpack this for today's deep dive. Usually we look at art just to, admire it, right? To hang it on a wall and say, it looks nice.
Yeah, purely aesthetic.
But this isn't just a portrait we're looking at today. It's a functional, step-by-step, how-to manual for the human mind.
It is profoundly functional. And, the premise that something as massive as conquering death, or at least conquering the paralyzing fear of it, could be hidden in plain sight as a visual tool. It's a radical shift from how we normally consume media.
Oh, absolutely.
You're actually meant to use the image to engineer a specific experience within your own consciousness.
Okay, so for this deep dive, we have an incredibly striking, culturally significant piece of artwork in front of us. It was published by the Gita Press in Gorakhpur.
Right, which is this massive, historically significant publisher.
Yeah, they essentially democratized ancient Indian texts by making them affordable and accessible to the masses. The painting itself is by an artist named Deo Lalakar, and the subject is Sri Mahamrityunjaya.
Which translates from Sanskrit to the Great Conqueror of Death.
Wow.
Yeah. We're dealing with a very specific, intensely powerful form of the deity Shiva.
And we are going to meticulously decode this single page for you. I'm looking at the visual iconography of the painting right now.
Yep.
And meanwhile, you are going to decipher the bright red Sanskrit text printed right at the bottom of the image.
Right. That text is a dhyana shloka, or a meditative verse.
And together, we are going to walk you through exactly what this single image teaches about conquering death, achieving absolute purity, and discovering a sense of eternal life.
So if we're treating this as a manual, we really need to start with the visual schematic. Walk us through the physical blueprint Deo Lalakar has painted here.
Okay, looking at this right now, the immediate visual impact is just stunning. The central figure, Sri Mahamrityunjaya, takes up almost the entire frame.
He's front and center?
Completely. My eye is instantly drawn to his beautiful, pale blue skin, which contrasts so sharply with this thick, dark, matted hair cascading down his shoulders, and he's wearing a vibrant yellow lower garment.
It's very vivid.
It is. But as I look closer at the mechanics of his body, I'm realizing he doesn't just have 2 arms, he possesses 8 arms.
Which is key. Stepping outside the bounds of standard human physical reality instantly signals to the viewer that we are dealing with its psychological or spiritual state.
Not a literal historical human being.
Exactly. Multiple limbs represent multiple capacities or, simultaneous actions happening all at once in the mind.
And what those hands are doing is the most dynamic element of the entire piece. His top 2 hands are raised high above him, holding these gorgeous golden pots, which are called kalashes.
Right.
They are actively tilted inward, pouring a continuous heavy stream of liquid directly over his own head.
And that liquid is the absolute core of the image. That is Amrita, the nectar of immortality.
It looks like a golden cascading waterfall hitting right at the crown of his head.
It's a powerful visual.
Then, as my eyes move down the painting, I see 2 more hands resting in his lap. He's sitting in this deeply grounded, cross-legged, meditative posture.
Okay.
And those resting hands are cradling 2 more goldy pots of this nectar. Plus, he's not sitting on the ground or on an ornate throne. He is resting entirely atop a massive, vibrantly blooming blue lotus flower.
The contrast between the top and bottom of the frame is a deliberate design choice.
How so?
Well, the top half is all action, lifting heavy pots, pouring, sustaining a flow. But the bottom half is complete groundedness.
There are a few more crucial details to mention, too. Tucked into his matted hair is a bright white crescent moon.
Right.
Right in the center of his forehead is a prominent third eye. And coiled around his neck, as well as wrapped around his arms, are these dark serpents.
Which sounds terrifying, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, now here's where it gets really interesting. If you look at the mechanics of this image, it challenges our fundamental assumptions about seeking salvation.
Oh, absolutely.
Usually you think of seeking a cure or seeking eternal life by looking outward, right? You hunt for a healer, you search for a magic spring, you wait for someone else to save you.
You're looking for an external solution.
Exactly. But look at what he is doing here. He is continuously pouring the nectar over himself. It is a closed-loop system of perpetual energy.
I love that phrasing.
Right. He isn't seeking the elixir of life from the outside world. He is entirely self-sustaining. He serves as both the source and the recipient of his own salvation.
A closed-loop system of spiritual energy is a phenomenal way to frame it. What's fascinating here is the overriding emotion of the piece.
Yeah.
Because if we simply list the elements on the canvas like a blue man with 8 arms, pouring water over himself, wearing live snakes, sitting on a giant flower, it sounds chaotic.
It sounds like a lot.
It sounds like a very busy, almost overwhelming visual. But when you actually observe Dialakar's painting, the feeling it conveys is profound stillness.
Really?
Yeah, the expression on his face is utterly tranquil. The serpents aren't attacking, they are resting calmly. The pouring water isn't splashing violently, it's a smooth, controlled, deliberate flow. It is an image of deep self-nourishment.
Wait, I have to challenge that premise.
Okay, go for it.
He is holding heavy pots above his head, managing 6 other arms, wearing actual snakes, and balancing on a flower. How does that translate to stillness for the person looking at it? That sounds completely exhausting.
Well, it sounds exhausting if you imagine performing it physically. But remember our premise from the start. This is a blueprint for the mind.
Oh, right.
The stillness comes precisely from that complexity. In cognitive science, there is a concept regarding working memory capacity.
Like how much we can hold in our heads at once.
Exactly. When you force your brain to construct and hold an incredibly complex, multi-layered image in your mind's eye, the water flowing, the 8 arms holding specific objects, the lotus petals, the resting serpents, you max out your cognitive load.
Oh, wow.
You leave absolutely zero room for your brain to ruminate on your daily anxieties. The sheer complexity acts as a focal point that drowns out the static of your default mode network.
That makes so much sense. It acts as noise-canceling headphones for the psyche.
That's a great way to put it.
You play this specific, highly engineered visual frequency to cancel out the background noise of daily life. Which brings us to the text itself, actually, because you mentioned earlier that this visual isn't just an artist's creative imagination running wild.
Right, no. Every single detail you just described, the pots, the lotus, the moon, the hands, is a direct, literal translation of the red Sanskrit text printed beneath the painting.
Wait, really? A literal translation?
It's a 1-to-1 mapping. This text is a dhyana shloka. Dhyana translates to meditation, and a shloka is a verse or stanza.
Okay.
This is not a descriptive caption for the art. It is an instructional verse used by devotees to build the visual of the deity during meditation.
So the text came first, and the painting is just the ancient code brought to visual life.
Let's decode the actual Sanskrit, line by line, so you can see how the ancient words build the image in your mind.
I love that.
The verse begins with the phrase, and bear with me here, Hastabhyam Kalashadvajamari Tarasera Plavainantam Shiro.
Okay, I need you to pause right there.
I know, it's a lot.
That sounded like one continuous, breath-defying wall of sound. If I'm a casual listener, or even someone trying to learn how to meditate, that feels incredibly intimidating. Why is it so dense?
It is an intentionally massive compound word. In Sanskrit poetry, stringing concepts together without breaks forces the reciter to hold the entire concept as one unified, unbroken thought.
Oh, so you can't get distracted.
Right. You can't let your mind wander between words because there are no spaces between the words. But if we break it down into its components, the mechanics become really clear.
Okay, let's break it down.
Hastaphyam means with 2 hands. Kalashadvaya means 2 pots.
2 hands, 2 pots, got it.
Amrita refers to the liquid nectar of immortality. Aplavainta means bathing or drenching. And Shiro means the head.
Oh, wow.
So this single unbroken line is the direct instruction. Visualize him using 2 hands to bathe his head with the nectar from 2 pitchers.
The most dynamic, action-oriented part of the painting, the pouring of the nectar, is literally step 1 of the instructions.
Exactly. The verse then continues. Dvabhyam Daldahatam Mrityunjaya. This gives the mind instructions on what to do with the next set of hands.
Because we have 8 to get through.
Right. It asks you to visualize 2 hands holding a deer riga and a rosary akshavalaya. Now, while this specific painting focuses primarily on the nectar pots to emphasize the Mahamrityunjaya aspect, The verse ensures the meditator builds out the full 8-armed complexity of the deity.
Does it mention the hands resting quietly in the lap?
It does. The text states, Ankanyastakadvayam Mrityunjaya. Anka translates to lap. Yasto means placed or resting.
Okay.
Kardvaya means 2 hands. And Amritagattam, again, means pots of nectar. So it's directing the mind to see the 2 hands resting in the lap, firmly holding nectar pots.
It really is a 3D rendering program. You are typing in the phonetic code syllable by syllable, and the mental image is rendering in real time in your consciousness.
That's exactly what it is. Let's finish the rendering process. The text commands. Swacchambhojagatam.
What does that mean?
Svadhyam means pure or clear, and Ambojo means lotus. Place the figure on a pure, clear lotus. And finally, Navendumukutam and Devan Trinetram.
Okay, based on what we were seeing in the artwork, Trinetram sounds like 3 eyes. Try being 3.
You nailed it. Netram is eye, possessing 3 eyes. And Navendumukutam means wearing the new crescent moon as a crown.
So what does this all mean for you and me? Like, if I am chanting this ancient Sanskrit verse, am I just memorizing a mental photograph of a god with 8 arms?
Well,
Is there a deeper psychological purpose to putting the brain through this highly specific rendering process?
there is. If we connect this to the bigger picture of Eastern meditative traditions, you don't just look at the deity as a separate entity sitting across the room from you.
Right.
The ultimate goal of this kind of visualization is internalization. When you visualize Sri Mahamrityunjaya, the conqueror of death, bathing in this endless supply of immortality, you aren't just watching a performance.
What are you doing then?
You are actively conditioning your own mind. The meditator trains their nervous system and their consciousness to conquer the fear of mortality and to recognize their own eternal nature.
I'm trying to wrap my head around the biological mechanism there. How does picturing someone else pouring water over their head alter my own nervous system?
It operates on principles very similar to mirror neurons and embodied cognition.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, when you intensely and repeatedly visualize an action, your brain fires in patterns remarkably similar to actually performing that action physically.
So your brain thinks you're doing it, essentially. By visualizing a state of complete self-sufficiency, closed-loop nourishment, and profound calm, you are literally carving new neural pathways.
Wow.
You are teaching your brain what it feels like to be completely unthreatened by the world. You become the image you hold in your mind.
That is incredible. Let's transition into the deeper symbolism here, the so what of these specific visual choices. Let's start with the big one, the nectar being poured, the Amrita. We are clearly not talking about literal physical water.
No, definitely not. The nectar represents pure, eternal consciousness. It is the truth of who you really are beneath the temporary, fragile, physical body.
Okay.
In our normal day-to-day lives, our minds get dried out. We get exhausted by stress, by the fear of sickness, the fear of aging, the fear of death.
Yeah, the daily grind really takes a toll.
It really does. Bathing in the Amrita symbolizes constantly renewing one's mind with spiritual truth. It is the realization that while the body constantly changes and decays, the consciousness observing it all remains eternal, which explains why the visual insists on him continuously pouring it over his head. He isn't taking one sip of a magic potion and calling it a day.
Right, it's not a one and done thing.
He is constantly actively bathing his mind in that truth to prevent it from drying out. What about the lotus? He is sitting on this giant, pure, blue lotus.
The lotus is perhaps the most universal and powerful symbol in Eastern philosophy. Think about the biological reality of where a lotus grows.
It grows in swamps, right?
Exactly. It roots itself deep in the murky, dirty, stagnant mud. But as it grows upward through the water, the flower emerges entirely pristine.
How does it stay so clean?
In botany, this is known as the lotus effect. The microscopic structure of the petals makes them ultra-hydrophobic. Mud and dirty water literally roll right off them, taking any dirt away with it.
Wow. So mapping that to the human experience, sitting on the lotus means you are rooted in the world, but you are engineering your mind to repel the dirt.
Precisely. You are rooted in the messy, chaotic world. You still have to go to work, deal with conflict, face illness, and economic stress, but you remain spiritually untouched by its anxieties.
The mud just slides off you.
The mud slides off you. You sit atop the mess, deeply grounded, but pure.
That is a phenomenal operating system for modern life. I want to look at 2 more quick symbols that I find fascinating. The crescent moon tucked into his hair, and the third eye.
Okay, let's start with the moon. The moon is the ultimate symbol of time because of its visible phases.
Because it waxes and wanes.
Right. It represents cycles of birth, growth, decay, and death. By taking the moon, the very symbol of time passing, and wearing it casually as an ornament in his hair, Shiva is demonstrating absolute mastery over time and death.
Like it's just a piece of jewelry.
Exactly. Time is merely an accessory to them. It does not control him or frighten him.
He wears time. Time doesn't wear him down.
Beautifully put. And the third eye represents spiritual insight. The two physical eyes see the dualities of the physical world: light and dark, good and bad, life and death, success and failure.
Right.
The third eye sees beyond those temporary physical states into eternal realities. It sees the underlying, unchanging unity of everything.
This is incredibly profound, but I want to advocate for the listener right now.
Go ahead.
Someone listening might be sitting in stop-and-go traffic or prepping for a brutal performance review at a corporate job, or just feeling overwhelmed by a relentless news cycle.
Sure, the reality of daily life.
Right. They might hear this and think, well, a blue lotus and eternal nectar sound lovely, but my rent is due and my boss is angry. How does an ancient Indian art piece help me today?
That is such a valid point, and it raises an important question about bridging the ancient and the modern.
Yeah.
Even if you aren't a Sanskrit scholar, and even if you don't practice this specific religion, this deep dive offers a remarkably powerful mental tool.
How so?
We live in an era of intense information overload. There's a constant underlying hum of anxiety and modern life anxiety about our health, our financial future, our relevance. It is. And society's default solution is to tell us to look outward. Buy this product to feel secure. Refresh this feed to stay informed. Get this promotion to feel worthy. The outside world is the mud.
And we are constantly exhausting ourselves trying to clean the mud while standing entirely in it. We're always relying on something external to happen so we can finally feel peaceful.
Yes. This imagery provides an entirely different anchor. It teaches that true peace isn't found by frantically trying to fix or control everything in the outside world.
It's an inside job.
Exactly. Peace is found by accessing an internal, unshakable reservoir of calm. It is about building that closed-loop system within yourself. You stop looking for external validation and start pouring the nectar of your own awareness over yourself.
It is the difference between trying to control the weather, which is impossible, and simply building a really solid shelter.
That's a great analogy.
If you feel yourself getting dragged down by the mud of daily anxieties, the emails, the bills, the petty arguments, you can actually use the mechanics of this visualization. You build the noise-canceling headphones. You visualize that golden nectar, that Amrita, washing over your mind, dissolving the temporary fears, the stuff that won't matter in 5 years, let alone 500, and it leaves behind only what is permanent.
It cleanses the lens of your perception. You stop reacting to the world from a place of scarcity and fear, and you start responding to it from the vantage point of the lotus, unbothered, untouched.
Taking a step back to look at the whole picture of what we've unpacked today. We started with a vivid, striking piece of artwork from the Gita Press, painted by Dayalalakar.
Yes, we did.
We explored the visual of the 8-armed Sri Mahamrityunjaya Shiva, entirely self-sustaining, pouring the nectar of immortality over his own head as a closed-loop system of perpetual energy.
And then we decoded the ancient Sanskrit technology beneath it, the Dhyana Shloka.
Right.
We demonstrated how this isn't just a painting, but a literal instruction manual for constructing a 3D psychological state. The sheer cognitive load of the visualization forces the mind out of its anxious rumination and into a state of profound fearlessness.
And we uncovered a profound lesson on conquering the fear of death and daily anxiety through self-renewing purity, represented by the lotus, and spiritual insight, represented by the third eye. It truly is an ancient masterclass in mental resilience.
It really is. And as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over today.
Okay, let's hear.
Something that builds on everything we've explored. The artwork and the ancient text both instruct us to meditate on the constant pouring of the nectar.
Constant being the key word.
Right. Notice that the ultimate state of immortality, the ultimate state of peace, isn't depicted as a static, frozen state. He isn't just sitting there doing absolutely nothing. It is an active, continuous process of self-renewal.
He has to keep pouring.
It keeps pouring. So what does that mean for your own daily life? It suggests that true peace is not a final destination you simply arrive at, where you check a box and say, well, I'm enlightened now, I am done. It asks you to consider, is peace actually a garden you must actively and continuously water within yourself? Are you relying on the world to hand you a cup of water, or are you learning to pour it for yourself?
And perhaps that is the real blueprint for immortality. Not escaping the world forever, but learning to sustain yourself infinitely while sitting right in the middle of it.